Larry, if you were a weather phenomenon, what would you be?
I have been known to be called Hurricane Larry at times because some of my chaotic energy can be unwelcome at places like libraries or hospitals. Well, what would you be?
I think I would be a sun shower.
Ooh,
Unexpected, but a little bit pleasant.
delightful.
Yeah. You know, there's actually over 100 kinds of weather phenomena you could have picked. Think squalling, galing, blizzards, snowstorms,
Earthquakes,
thunderstorms,
typhoons.
all of them. But Larry, all of this talk, tell me why we're actually talking about the weather.
I'm so glad you asked because as the climate continues to change, there's more and more extreme weather. NOAA predicted above average hurricane activity this year, plus the National Interagency Fire Center says this year's fire activity is above average for the last decade in the US. Now, lucky for us, we've got a guy. And yes, his name actually is Guy.
And he is the best guy for the job. Guy Brown is a meteorologist and author, and he's here to explain weather phenomena. Today, we're getting into wildfires, then hurricanes, then tornadoes, and we'll end on something super fun that we can all do at home.
First up, Guy, tell us a little bit about wildfires.
A wildfire is an uncontrolled fire that often burns in rural areas. Now, it can occur in forests, grasslands, savannas, and other ecosystems. Conditions like drought, winds, and extreme heat can cause fire to spread more quickly and sometimes destroy homes and the environment nearby. Most wildfires occur in the summer and fall here in the United States, and some can be catastrophic. Fires need three critical ingredients to burn: oxygen, fuel, and a heat source. A fuel source is any combustible material such as grass, shrubs, or trees. An example of a heat source could be heat from the sun, embers from a campfire, and sometimes a lightning strike. And last, fires need oxygen to burn, just like we need oxygen to breathe. How do wildfires start? Most wildfires in the United States are started by human activity or human error. Dry conditions and breezy winds can cause wildfires to spread quickly. Topography also plays a significant role as well. Fires tend to burn faster uphill compared to downhill because smoke rises uphill and acts as a fuel source for the new burning fires.
Before we get to hurricanes, which is next, Larry, I must ask you our true-false question of the day.
Oh, an easy one, true, false, I like it.
Okay, let's do it. True or false, there was a time when hurricanes were only named after women.
Oh, so much for an easy one. Well, the only two hurricanes I can think of are Katrina and Sandy, and they're both named after women, so I gotta say true.
Well, listen to what Guy had to say when I asked him how hurricanes get their names.
Meteorologists basically keep the public informed, and we name these storms in an alphabetical system. So you got A name being given with the first hurricane of the season, then you got the B name given for the second, and so on. So the National Hurricane Center originated the name list in 1953, only using women's names. Now, it wasn't until 1979 when this began to alternate between women's and men's names.
So Larry, the answer is true. From 1953 until 1978, hurricanes were only named after women. And then in 1979, both men and women's names were used. So Hurricane Kelsey came before Hurricane Larry.
But you know what? When you put the power of Hurricane Kelsey and Larry together, then you've got a show. I don't know where I was gonna go with that.
What is a hurricane exactly?
All right, so get ready for this. A hurricane is a rotating storm with clear skies in the center, also called the eye of the storm. Hurricanes develop in warm ocean waters around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The minimum sustained wind speeds classified as a hurricane, 74 miles per hour. Now, sustained wind is the average wind speed over 2 minutes. Sometimes these winds can last longer for several hours at a time.
A lot of folks are saying that we're having an above average hurricane season. Are we? What is that looking like?
Well, it is forecast to be above average. It's all because of the La Nina weather pattern. This is when you have colder than average temperatures in the tropical Pacific, which is the major driver for tropical activity in the Atlantic basin.
Let's talk about the actual season of the hurricane. When is hurricane season?
So there's been some talk about shifting it a little bit earlier in the season because hurricane season begins June 1st, ends November 30th. But we've had hurricanes occur outside of that time frame as soon as late May.
How are hurricanes measured, specifically the wind?
Right, so it's all about the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. You have a 1 to 5 rating or category based on a hurricane's maximum sustained winds. Now, the higher the category, the greater the hurricane's potential for property damage.
There's hurricanes, there's typhoons, there's cyclones. Do any of them have differences?
They're actually the same exact storm. The only difference is they form in different bodies of water. Obviously, the hurricane forms in the Atlantic Ocean.
You hear it's a hurricane watch, you hear it's a warning. What does that stuff actually mean?
All right, this one gets everybody,
Yeah.
okay? So a hurricane warning means hurricane force winds are expected within the warning area in 36 hours. Now, a hurricane watch means hurricane force winds are expected in the watch area within 48 hours.
Got it. I had no idea it had to do with time.
And it has the same thing with flood watch, flood warnings, tornado watch, tornado warnings.
Let's say we hear that a hurricane watch is taking place right now. What should we do? How do we prepare for a hurricane?
So first and foremost, you always want to have a communication plan with your family. And then with a hurricane, always best to evacuate and load those bags up too with those necessities as well. Have that emergency kit ready to go, phones, chargers, and things like that.
All right, let's talk tornadoes. Starting with, what exactly is a tornado?
They stem from big thunderstorms, also called supercells. Tornadoes need a few ingredients for development. You need rising air. You need a trigger, which could be a weather front. Instability needs to be present. This is when you have warm, moist air near the surface and then cool, dry air above that. You also need moisture. And last, but certainly not least, wind shear. This is the change of wind speed and direction with height. When these ingredients mix together, you get a violently rotating column of air that touches the ground, and that can lead to damage and destruction.
So wind shear, moisture, instability, storm front, and a thunderstorm?
There you go.
Got it. It always seems like tornadoes always hit in the same place. Why is that?
Tornadoes can be possible anywhere. Now, they're here in the United States. You got the Gulf of Mexico, where you have warm, moist air coming off of the Gulf, and then the Rocky Mountains are going to bring you cool and dry air. Also in the high desert in the Southwest, you also can get some warm, dry air kind of filtering in as well. Once those air masses meet in the same area, we call that tornado alley. That's where you get thunderstorms that ignite, and then some of those storms can turn tornadic.
I've also heard tornadoes are the most devastating natural disaster. Is that true? And why is that, if so?
That is actually false. However, tornadoes are some of the most destructive forces in nature. Even though winds from the strongest tornadoes far exceed the strongest hurricanes, typically hurricanes are going to cause more damage, they're more widespread, and other weather events like heat waves and floods are even more impactful than tornadoes because tornadoes only affect a small amount of people on that scale.
Hurricanes have a hurricane season. Do tornadoes have a tornado season? Or when do they kind of pop up?
Any time of the season, even in the winter. However, they peak usually in the spring months and summer months. Late spring and early summer is when you have that wind shear, one of those key ingredients when that's most active.
Okay, so let's say there's a tornado in our area. What do we do to stay safe?
So first and foremost, you have to go to the lowest floor. If you have a basement, perfect. Interior room, you want to get away from windows. Another thing, because of the debris that is possible with a tornado, a bike helmet. You want to protect yourself. You want to get into a position where you're covering your head, of course, maybe under a table. You wait out the storm after that. Of course, you want to have those emergency necessities in your bag, your cell phone chargers. You can stay up to date on the latest weather events. All right, you want to see how a tornado works?
Absolutely.
Can I show you?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. You're probably thinking, do we have dish soap here and some beads and a jar with water in it? We're going to actually make our own tornado.
Woohoo!
We need this. This is important.
Where's the dish
Add a
help
little.
to?
It just helps the vortex. Yep. Creates that rising air, as you can see. Add a little bit more.
What is a vortex?
So vortex is that cone you see, that rotating column of air that when it touches the ground, that's when you have an official tornado. But sometimes you get these spin ups where you'll have that vortex, but it doesn't quite touch the ground. Now, you don't need the beads and the food coloring, but it does help to make it look a little prettier. We're gonna get this soap out of the way so we can actually see it here in 3, 2, 1. We're gonna spin it around. And then we're gonna put it on the table in 3, 2, 1.
Ooh, I see my tornado.
Mine's a little cloudy.
You kind of can see yours.
see it, yeah.
So we call that rain wrapped. When a
wrap.
tornado has a lot of moisture, it can be rain wrapped and you barely can see the funnel, but it's there.
Yeah, it definitely went through.
You kind of saw mine a little bit
Like a
here. Let's
tornado in a
see it
fog.
again.
I gotta really work on this
yours is
one.
going to look really good. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
yours
one.
is good.
Boom.
You saw the debris down there as well. So that was a really good one.
Going for damage.
There's your tornado in a jar experiment, and you can try it right at home.
But we have to have you back. There's so much we still didn't talk about. There's earthquakes, rainbows. I don't know how any of that stuff works.
I'd be happy to come back. And I say your tornado was definitely the messiest one.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I worked
It's a
really hard at
tornado.
that.
They're supposed to be pretty messy.
They don't call me Hurricane Larry for nothing.
All right.
Tornado
All right,
pound?
Tornado, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
The glass.